great pleasure to introduce Paul Walker. I've known Paul for many years and consider him a good friend. And I'll just highlight a couple of things from his history. He's the founder and CEO of Genius Stone Partners, and he was part of building the first leadership firm to align strategy, structure, and culture. And he's worked with CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, mid-sized companies for 25 years. He has a number of books out, author of Unleashing Genius, Leading Yourself, Teams, and Corporations, Invent Your Future. Again, a visionary leader and master of collaboration. The uh, companies that come give him stellar reviews. One of them from Bill McGinnis, CEO of NTS, says Paul took our executive team through the best team building I have ever experienced. Another one, Lloyd Wallace, president of Rubbercraft, said Paul David Walker is the best executive coach I've ever worked with. Paul's a master storyteller, he uses humor. But what I found when I was listening to Paul and how he worked with people, he brought the heart out. He brought the humanity out. He brought the vulnerability out. And that is so missing in corporations. It's so dry there. So what he was able to do was bring this out and make the leaders real people, not up on pedestals, with real hurts and real desires. And it created that connection. That's how I saw Paul doing his work, and that's why everybody is so excited by what he does. Um, so I would be remiss by saying Paul's other half, Bonnie, is a huge, wonderful component in his life. I believe they met in Life Spring. Bonnie's a poet also and great poetry. How neat to have a husband and wife that are aligned and collaborate. So that's a very, very wonderful thing. Um, I want to just say that Paul's poetry is really deep and really powerful. The one about the gravedigger just is just amazing. Rena mentioned that. It is incredible poetry. And Rumi said something about when I am silent, I fall into that place where everything is poetry, everything is music. It's like this is the place out of which the deepest insights come from. And Paul is truly blessed to have that as a poet, and so is Bonnie. So with that, let's listen to Paul's presentation and poetry. It truly is divine.
Thank you, Tim. That's just beautiful. Thank you. At any rate, I'm going to read a couple poems. The first one is Gravedigger. And for those of you who don't know, I earned my way through college digging graves in the 60s during the Vietnam War. So a lot of the people I buried were young men who died fighting in that war. And I'm very sensitive, so it was not easy to live through that time. And so I'll just go ahead and make the presentation, read these poems. First one is called Gravedigger. Some of you have heard this, some haven't. And as I said, it comes from my experience of digging graves. Gravedigger. As the gun's first round blasts out, echoed by a mother's mournful cry, I stand waiting to cap the grave This last summer of '69, when the constant funerals made me feel older than my years. I remember earlier being at the bottom of that grave, carving the corners square, where the sound is muted and still, and the earth smells cool and fresh. Enjoying a moment of silence below the ground, looking up from the darkness to the blue sky before the black funeral sends its dead down to this place. I prepared for many others. Waiting out of sight with dirt on my hands in case of trouble. A line of black cars weave through the cemetery lanes while the honor guard waits. So young and sharp, carrying guns, flags, and a brass horn, whose sound mixed with tears will carry the departed young soul away from us to heaven. The family and friends gather, moving like ghosts in the broken way I've seen so many times. As the prayers of consolation begin, I hear sorrowful whimpering as they try to comfort each other. Now the second round echoed by a mother's mournful cry, but louder, the sound of why unspoken that I will never forget. But soon the final round cracks out as the brass horn plays taps. General sobbing rises and falls. The soft notes signal the ending, and I still carry in my dreams and walking moments as sudden sobbing captures me, unexpectedly breaking my heart again. Gravedigger. Hard to explain what it's like to be in a grave waiting for the dead and the families. I mean, the sounds of the families and the mothers especially still echo in my brain. This next one is called Let Us Pray. And there's a lot of wars going on right now, and we get the body count. And people who are proud of their countries, and yet behind all that, there's the dying. Let us pray for those who head towards war in tanks, cafes, buses, streets, and in the minds of those so frightened that they cling to hard, shadowing beliefs that choke their heart's wisdom. Mothers who cry out loud and soft as they lose their children to kidnappers, holy men, and chance. For children who stand between thundering steel, clutching their mothers and guns in the ruins of civilizations. And the child caught between angry families, flinging hatreds across a once safe room. For those who cry out as they fight for life, looking to heaven as salvation slowly takes their children and then lays them down to die along a forgotten road far away beyond the reach of civilization or will. For those who have lost their souls to evil creeds and great causes, once important, now bloody, afraid to stop the madness. For all humanity who suffer unnoticed and alone, that pass every day tortured inside themselves with tightness beneath the skin, trying to appear calm outside. For all of those who struggle to keep the light alive within ourselves in the face of menacing glances and holy wars. Let us take a deep breath as we quiver during rising horror to calm the raging fear that spawns dark thoughts that cloud the spirit, take our strength, and fuel campaigns of terror. Let us look deep within beyond our minds to touch the God-given peace that passes all understanding, to show our children the way once shown by true prophets, whose resurrection we need more than ever in this spring of war and terror. So I'd like to hear your thoughts about what's going on in the world today, how it's impacting you. It certainly impacts me. I say to myself sometimes, well, stop watching the news. But that's what's happening. We need to know so that we can pray, so that we can put our light out into the world. I mean, each one of us is a light. And if we just let it shine, we just let it shine and love one another and love our children, we can make a huge difference.
Thomas has his hand up.
Okay. Thomas.
In response to your invitation just now to say our reactions to what you just read, I just want to say thank you that your poem, your words allow me to feel the grief that I carry and that I otherwise would prefer to avoid feeling. So thank you for that. It's as if the love is stuck in a bottle and grief is the cork. And if I can grieve, the love can flow. And so thank you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome. Thank you for saying so. Michelle.
Oh, has her hand up.
So thank you, Paul. Both poems have just seeped into my soul, and especially hearing them in your voice. I would love the words of the second one in particular, because I do communicate with a soldier in Ukraine that first heard me many years ago on a national program I did for National Soviet Television. And I know they would be a source of hope and speak deeply to him. And it would be a huge gift. And it would be my honor to share that with him if you're okay with that. The
Yes.
second thing that I would share with you very quickly is on my feed, just as we were preparing to come and spend this powerful time with you, came a clip from Dead Poets Society, one of my favorite films of all times. And it seems relevant. Let me share it. I'll tell you a secret. We don't read and write poetry because it's pretty. We read and write poetry because we belong to the human race, and the human race is filled with passion. medicine, law, commerce, engineering. They are noble and necessary races to dignify human life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love are the things that keep us alive. And Paul, your poetry keeps us alive. Thank you.
Thank you. Rena.
I was just supporting, and at this moment, I just want to look at the words. I need to see the words. So I will may share in a few minutes, but I'm right now looking at the words on my phone so I can relate better. And I'm grateful for your heartfelt images. Yes, thank you for opening my heart, but I'll share them in a few minutes.
You don't need to.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess I would ask you, how is the world impacting you, your life? How is awareness of the things that are going on, both negative and positive? I mean, there are great things, the things that happen here in our group, things that people share, fill my heart. But what's striking you now? What would you like to say? Robin.
I think what's happening for me is I'm getting more serious about my personal work.
Mm.
And it feels like any of us who have had the privilege of the teachers and the awarenesses earlier on are here. We really are being called. I feel like I'm being called to anchor peace and calm and I don't know, just decency, kindness, where any little ways I can. It's not just some nice thing to do anymore. It feels like, no, it's why I'm here. We are lights to counterbalance some of this.
Mm. Thank you, Robin. Mm. What did, go ahead, Monica.
Oh, I can share that. The way it's impacting me, just realizing how many personal challenges that we have and realizing that everybody has so many personal challenges. And then you add to it these wars and things that are going on that are just so painful to even think about. One of the things that has really helped me has been to repeat to myself. I think I said this in the group before about, when I was facing my therapist dying recently, and it starts out with just walking on the edge of panic. I remember the love that I came here to be. And so all of this is making me so much more aware that I am love. I came here to be love and share love. And that's all that's really important. And it's making me really, it's all that's really important. And so my little granddaughter, and just seeing that, but she just exudes that. So that's part of the whole thing with her that just, there was a picture that Paul took of her the other day of the light, the sunlight just shining right on her hair. And I just, I said in my caption, I thought, oh boy, some people might think, she's gone over the top. I said, she brings the light. She is the light. And then in writing that, I thought, well, we all are. I didn't go so far to go into all of that in the share, but that was what I was feeling, that we all are that light. And, so the more we share that, the more we put that energy out into the world. And so, anyway, thank you, Paul, because bringing this up, it's very painful stuff.
Mm.
I know the first one about, young men dying with two sons. Sometimes it has just felt unbearable to me to think of how they could have been 18 years old and in that kind of situation. It just feels totally unbearable. I don't know how people have been able to deal with that. So,
Lovita has her hand up.
Lavita?
Thank you, Paul. I happen to have your book. And so I love going along and hearing again, as was mentioned, in your own voice as you're reading the words. And particularly with the first one, it's like I could feel the dirt and the weight of the shovel and the quietness of breaking the earth up to receive yet another. And what's happening right now is just so incomprehensible and heinous on every level. And yet opening up bigger and wider to carry the reality of the atrocities we're capable of and the grand love and appreciation. And I have to scale it down to my life size. And I've talked before about in the evenings, some of my neighbors and myself go out to the bench and we talk, and it's like they're spilling in of this and all kinds of opinions. And notice how words create wars. Words can create war. And the falling apart of neighbors against neighbors, whether it's political and how strongly we cling to our opinions, no matter if there's any sound validity to them at all, and we'll separate ourselves and condemn others. So it's the micro of the macro, and even within families. And there are days, even within myself in my own environment, it's like I have bombs going off inside my own head of retaliation or revenge or angsting and it's like seeing how important dealing with ourselves and bringing it forward, and the courage that comes here on Tuesday mornings to show up and share where we are in our own lives. I hear you, Sandy Davis. I see you, Joanna. And it's like the list goes on and on and on. I hear you, Mary Angel. And it's like, we are humans. We are the humans of humanity. And I love this group and what we do bring to each other and share. And Paul, I'm so moved by your tenderness. Thank you for bringing us forward to this morning.
Thank you.
Lisa has her hand up.
So, with everything that's going on, not only in the world, but also in our personal lives, it's difficult not to slide into despair. And while you were sharing that poem, Paul, I reminded myself that it's my job to do whatever I can to stay in the light and to find ways on a daily basis where I can make a difference. And it doesn't have to be a monumental act. It can be a very simple, small act of kindness. And it's difficult to keep perspective of that, but I know that it makes a difference in how I feel when I can do at least one nice thing a day. So a girlfriend of mine from church called me out of the blue, and she reminded me that that call, she was just calling because she wanted to spread love. And I thought how impactful that call was, because it made my whole day. So today, that's my job, is to find one way to make a difference in the world, and hopefully, as a collective, that we can all do that and have a major impact. So,
You remind me of one of the Beatles songs that ends, "Only kindness matters." So true. Bill.
Yeah.
Bill,
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. I am always deeply, deeply moved, especially by a gravedigger that blows me away. And it struck me that there's a character in Greek mythology, Charon, who ferries the dead into Hades. You know, it occurred to me that you were filling that role, and it also struck me that the stories of the young men who had passed, and the stories of their loved ones, their relatives who were there at the site, that you were kind of the connection between them, and that your story was a combination of theirs. So anyway, I'm just filled with a lot of thoughts and deep thoughts and realizations and emotions. So thank you again. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Bill.
Rena,
Okay. So thank you for putting us in the grave, for putting us in that image. And it's like, it was such a, I would say, a refreshing point of view. But talking about the earth, the corners, the smell, that reality of what's above the ground, and the life that is underneath the ground, and that craziness of the juxtaposition of the scent of the rawness of dirt in our nails, and then all the ending of life that we put in there, the kind of I want to say the senseless pain of war. And part of me has been feeling resistance to the beautiful words also, because there's I feel like your words, every line when I'm going, especially with the second poem, speak so boldly. And I want to acknowledge you for being what's the women who used to cry by the graves, the women who used to scream, like in my culture, you actually hire the women who raise their voice and throw themselves on a grave. And it's so powerful. And part of me, when I read the poem, wanted to say, I don't want to have nice words. I don't want to have nice, polite conversation. We need to scream. There's a part of me that wants to shout. It doesn't make sense. That's what I get from your poem. It's like, oh, the kids being buried so far from civilization, and every sentence, every image here is powerful. It's hard to pull one out, but that's what I want to acknowledge you for, finding a way to cry out through your poem, and what is so unbearable. And thank you for that. Thank you for pulling on the strings of my heart. Yes, thank you.
Tim?
Jim,
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to share something from some friends of mine, which is on the inside of the war. We're looking at the outside and what's coming back. And this is a friend of mine who was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam, and he flew CH-46s with double rotors. He flew into places to bring out the critically injured, putting his life continuously at risk. He had 3 helicopters shot out from underneath him, and somehow he survived, go into another helicopter, and bring out these injured and critically wounded. Um, the people on the field don't want to kill each other. In fact, in the early wars, they would get the enemy in the sights and they couldn't pull the trigger. The politicians and the people who are grabbing for power and influence start these things. And you see the results of the millions of people killed. And then, we have World War II. Well, we're really close to the Japanese. We're really close to the Germans. None of this makes any, we're really close to the Vietnam. None of this makes any sense. How do we allow these politicians and people to get us into it? And so my friend was a hero, and his helicopter had more holes in it than any other helicopter, but he flew in to save lives. And that's what all the medals, almost all those medals are the high-end medals are for people going in and saving lives. That's what they're for, not for destroying the others. So I just wanted to bring that view a little bit from inside the conflicts and wars, because most people don't see that or know that.
Thank you, Tim. What did Rumi say about silence? Sometimes these moments of silence are pretty important. So I won't interrupt the silence by making more comments. But Michelle.
Just another thought. Years ago, Paul, I saw a ballet by the Joffrey Ballet Troupe. I can't think of the name of it, but it had to do with war. It started out with a conference table, and all the dancers had the same mask on. They look the same, and they're pounding on the table. And as a result of those decisions, the next scenes of the ballet are all about the devastation of war, the loss of life, the wailing of the mothers, all of that. At the very end of the ballet, here's that conference table again, and all the same mask, and men standing around it, pounding on the table. But the point that these decisions are made at one level, but they impact life at the grassroots level. And when are we ever going to learn that it solves nothing really, but the pain lasts for a lifetime? I will never forget that ballet and that lesson that I saw witnessing on stage and dance.
Thank you.
So thank you again for sharing these powerful words and the way in which you share them, your capacity to capture an image that resonates so deeply is an incredible gift. And so I honor you and thank you for that, Paul.
Thank you. Ruth.
It's been so difficult to say anything at all. But Michelle, when she just talking about the ballet she saw, reminded me that when I was in my early 20s, I made a short film called, it was for a competition of a 1-minute film for the Chicago Film Festival. And the name of the festival was called The Condition of Man. We were supposed to somehow in 1 minute say something or show something visually that could make allow people to understand what did that mean. And so I made a film that I called Of Man the Condition. I reversed the title, and it starts out in a surgery room where all the doctors are dressed in green, and they each make a comment, and they each had, I got people from different parts of the world. So every comment that was made was in a different accent, in a German accent, in a Russian accent, etc. And they were all commenting about the hopelessness of the patient that was on the table. And the next scene was a woman listening on the phone to supposedly the condition of her husband. And the message she was given was the surgery was successful, but the patient died. And I guess I still feel that way. And then my mind, because it's so hard to hear this and really integrate it, I found in a Chinese cookie once a message. Even though everyone around you is suffering, you are still entitled to experience joy. And I kept that on my mirror for about 10 years. And in the Jewish tradition, if a young woman or a couple is scheduled to get married, and the parent or someone in the family of the couple dies, they don't cancel the wedding. Even though you would think that would be the most obvious thing to do. And when the rabbis talk about it, they say that it's very important to perpetuate life and to go on with the joys that we have around us, and not to cancel them all out of despair. So it's juggling those two things are really very, very, very challenging. To hear what you said, to ingest it, to palpate it, and then at the same time to remember that I'm also allowed to experience joy. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Bruce. Tim?
Yes, I just wanted to read this Hopi shaman's statement about this. I think it applies really nicely. This time through which humanity is proceeding can be viewed as either a portal or a hole. The decision to fall in the hole or pass through the portal is yours. Take this opportunity to look at yourself, rethink life and death. Take care of yourself and others, and you will pass across the portal. There is a social demand in a crisis, but there's also a spiritual demand. They both go hand in hand. Without the social dimension, we can fall into fanaticism. Without the spiritual dimension, we fall into pessimism and meaninglessness. You are prepared to go through this crisis. Take your toolbox and use all the tools you have at your disposal. Indigenous peoples have always been exterminated, but have not stopped singing and dancing and having fun. Don't feel guilty about being happy during this difficult time. And when the storm passes, each of you will be very important in rebuilding this new world. You need to be well and strong, and for that, there is no other way to maintain a beautiful, joyful, and luminous vibration. Good things come out, and what comes out of you now is most important. So sing, dance, resist through art, joy, faith, and love. We are passing through this portal we cannot deny. Hopi Shaman.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tim. I know, Patricia.
I wanted to share, a friend of mine invited me to celebrate the New Year's in her temple with her. And it was such a beautiful experience. And Ruth Common reminded me of this experience because there is this feeling of joy, and there was a lot of hugging and music and dancing, but still there was this anguish, the weight, that anguish. There was this big poster of the hostages, alive and dead. So there was acknowledgement of all that while still celebrating in joy. And I wanted to bring that up, that it's hard, but it's possible.
Thank you. Okay, so we're towards the end, and the phrase, I was an altar boy in the Christian church, and the priest always ended his role by saying to the congregation, "May the peace that passes all understanding be with you now and always." I'll say that to all of you, because beneath the wars, beneath the hate, the fears, there is this deep, deep wisdom and peace that you can connect with. So thanks for reminding me, each of you, the beauty of life.
We have about 5 more minutes, Paul.
Okay. Anyone else have some thoughts they'd like to share? Okay. That's my favorite phrase. May the peace that passes all understanding be with you now and always. And so I don't know what else to say, but I just thank everyone for all the good you do in the world. I know each of you touches other people and helps them cope in life. So it's just wonderful to have this group of people to, I mean, one of the things I'm contemplating now is, I've been a business leader, as Tim said, all my life, since I was 10. Now I'm going to be a poet for the rest of my life. So that's my commitment.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you,
Or
Paul.
you've been a poet the whole time.
That was, yeah.
What an incredibly profound, meaningful morning, Paul. Thank you so much. It was really wonderful.